Hi, I'm Nick Gallo, Chief Servant and Co-CEO at Ethico. When I got into the ethics and compliance space, I was immediately impressed by how unique this industry is. This is not normal, this thing that we have here, where competitors can reach out to each other and collaborate on how to build a better program. The progress we make in any realm is a function of those who came before us. We're truly standing on the shoulders of giants in industry, in finance, in science, in mathematics, and the same is true in our industry. And the sharing of information is what has come to define this industry. And what else has come to define this industry are the women in it. I am a huge fan of the women in this space. They've embraced me with open arms, welcomed me into this industry, and shared so much, from tactics to techniques to instruction to different perspectives that I use every single day. The purpose of this documentary is twofold. First, to capture the stories and the wisdom of the women of this industry. And second is to pull together all of this advice and all of these experiences and make them accessible for everyone. That is what has come to define this industry, and that's what we need to hold on to as we step into the next chapter. Over the past few conferences we've been to, we've had hundreds of conversations with various women and male allies in the ethics and compliance space. We asked them what inspired them on their journey, what advice they would give to other women, and who is a mentor that influenced their life. This has been such a life-changing experience for us. We got to hear so many different stories of mentors and later talking to a mentee and seeing the impact that this person who had their own job to do, who was still able to put this person first and carve out some time to give them some guidance and ultimately set them on another path. That's what so much of the magic in our space comes from. It's the sharing of information, planting seeds that later on, without you even knowing it, can turn into oak trees. The sharing of information has come to define this industry, and that's something that we must preserve as we step into the new era where ethics and compliance truly becomes a strategic lever in our organizations. Thank you so much for watching our Women in Compliance mini documentary. I hope you find it valuable, and I hope it inspires you to make a difference in your world. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
How are you?
Very good.
Good.
So who's a woman who's inspired you, and how has that inspiration helped your compliance journey?
Well, I guess I have to say my mother. Even though she was kind of a hot mess and we had issues in our family, she always strove for education and knowledge and learning. Mm-hmm. So I think I've taken that on myself, and it applies a lot to compliance. So I'd have to say that.
I am definitely going to have to go with my grandmother. She was a believer in education. In 1948, when she got married, women really didn't have a lot of opportunities. A lot of women still had a lot of barriers to entry for college. And she knew that the way out of farming for her kids was education. Education. That's what we're doing here at this academy. We're learning, right? So she is definitely my number one. But I can't overlook all of the wonderful women leaders that I have had through my career that really inspired me to be a good listener, to keep striving, to work with integrity.
The woman who inspired me was my grandmother. She worked in the mental health field, and she didn't get her degree until she was in her 40s.
Wow.
So she spent a good portion of her life working with the mental health and especially the senior population.
A woman that's inspired me is my grandmother. She's recently passed, but she was one of the first women to figure out how to use iodine for radiation and radiation imaging. And one of the things she told me was to always pretend like you're deaf or hard of hearing if somebody says something negative. Because if you ask them again and they repeat it, then you know that their opinion isn't worth listening to. And if you pretend like you're deaf or hard of hearing and they don't repeat themselves, then they recognize that they did wrong. So either way, you're just ignoring negativity, and I think that's very helpful.
I love that
whenever
advice.
It's difficult information to receive or negative information. So I love that.
I love that advice. I never heard that before. Who is a woman that's inspired you, and how has that inspiration helped you on your compliance journey?
Oh, wow. That's such a loaded question. I would say there's a few different women, not just one. Definitely, I come from a family, a lot of healthcare leaders. Many of them are women, and they've just always told me to lead with doing what's right?
That would be my boss, Nicole Meyer, because I was a nurse manager at our facilities, but I was always that nurse manager who was like, this doesn't seem right. Why are we not doing that? And so she has really opened my eyes. I've been with her for 2 years now.
Wow.
And yeah, we're doing great things.
Early on in my career, I worked for Kim Lansford, who is the Chief Compliance Officer at Penn University Medical Center. And when I met her, I was working at Shriners Healthcare for Children, so was she. And it was a wonderful experience because at the time I had no certifications, no degree, and I wanted to achieve more. And she pulled me aside and said, you know, Tanya, there's something you can't learn in the healthcare industry and in life in general. She said, you've got that something, but you're going to need a little more to get where you're going. And under her encouragement, I've since received 3 degrees. I'm a law student.
Wow.
I have 4 certifications, and I am loving my life in the healthcare industry.
I had this phenomenal mentor, Camille, only worked for a brief set of time, but she really showed me how to bring teams together.
I am from the Navajo Reservation, so compliance is still fairly new. It's a position that no one really knows, but I had a chief executive officer, her name was Lynette Bonar, who really pushed and helped me progress in my position as a whole. So to have someone like that in leadership guiding you and supporting you, you know, everything compliance was, you know, something she taught me. And then of course to be patient, not only with the process, but with the people.
My boss is an amazing role model. She's inspired me. I honestly did like 25 to 30 years of billing and coding, and she wanted me to move over to compliance, and it was the best decision I could ever make.
Prior to where I am now, I worked for the VA as a research compliance officer, and a woman named Barbara Wilborn, who had started a new career as a research compliance officer, was very inspirational. She taught me a lot, and she let me know that, you know, you could just keep going and keep, competing and doing and going for your goals, and you just never quit.
So who's a woman who's inspired you, and tell me about that relationship and how that's helped you on your compliance journey?
The woman that has inspired me is my mentor, actually, and her name is Viola Roselle, and she is... When I first met her, she was the compliance officer, and when she was talking, I was in new supervisor training. When she was talking, I went, I want to be like her.
A year ago, I started working for Margarita Deralanco, and she is such an interesting combination of very demanding, but in a way you don't even realize that that's what she's doing. She's so kind, she's so compassionate, very brilliant, but pushes you to like just be your best and know how to like have skills that are not just like knowledge and compliance, but like how do I get people on my side? How do I help people understand? How do I incorporate like what's going to matter to them to get that compliance message across?
Melanie Sponholz has been sort of my mentor. I got into the compliance role sort of by accident, I think, which is common. But I didn't know that there was like a collective group of people that all had the same philosophies and goals. It's not just a matter of tasks to do at work, which is what it was before I met her.
So a woman that has inspired me is Eugenia White. She inspired me to get focused, and she introduced me to compliance when I was an undergraduate. And from that, I went to law school, got more involved in the compliance sector, and I have just learned a great deal in this whole arena.
Linda Johnson has inspired me. She is our healthcare law attorney, and she has just inspired me to do compliance.
If you could go back in time and find a younger version of you and give her some advice, what's that piece of advice you wish you got earlier?
First of all, keep your mind open to all of the options. Definitely get some training. Find yourself a mentor and just connect and network with anyone that you can.
As a woman, I think first thing is to know that there are other women who've kind of climbed this path before. Don't feel like you're the first one or that you're alone. So reach out, ask for support, network, meet people, ask questions, and don't be afraid to kind of get out there and take risks.
I would say that compliance is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. But you have to be willing to pivot and accept anything that comes your way.
You need to know that nothing will ever be the same consistently, and you have to like problem solving.
I would say know what you know and stand on that, because you will know things and people will question what you know. But then also recognize what you don't know and ask for help, because there's tons of people in the space who are willing to give you knowledge and information for free.
A title doesn't matter. The title doesn't matter. What your office looks like doesn't matter. If you put in the work in compliance, at the end of the day, you will make it to the top.
Lean into the discomfort.
Okay.
Be bold, be brave, and maybe you'll find some gold along the way.
The fact that in most cases, or in all cases, we are the experts in that respective field or department. So standing firm on that.
Be true to yourself and do what's right, because you can't go wrong if you do what's right.
I think a lot of times we bring with us a lot of inadequacies from either childhood or just life in general, but if you're missing something, find it.
I think you have to be confident in what you know and what you don't know.
Really think things through before you make a decision.
I would definitely encourage her to go find education, and HCCA is a great resource, but also network with other compliance officers, and particularly other female compliance officers, because it gives this sense of empowerment, because knowledge is power.
Okay, so if you could go back in time and find a young you, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
I think pacing yourself.
I think it's just to believe in yourself and to realize that the sky's the limit.
I would honestly think I would tell myself to just be more confident and trust in my abilities and trust the path that you're going on.
I would advise myself to have patience. I'll definitely say compliance work, it's not easy, but you should be patient.
I would say to make sure you find a mentor.
I would say that I should get out of my own way. Don't let all the noise of what you can and cannot do, especially, at my age and when I was young, being told by the industry probably what women are capable of or how far they can go.
I would probably say to be confident.
Be genuine. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself.
I would advise myself to focus on getting started.
Always do the right thing. I think in terms of compliance, I wish I had networked earlier. Just to start having points of contact. It's really, you get hit with questions every day and they make no sense. And you think, I couldn't imagine this. And then you have to try to unravel it. So knowing someone to call and say, help, what would you do?
Right.
It has been a lifesaver.
Whenever you make mistakes, that it's just another opportunity for learning.
You have to learn, I think, as a younger individual to just take those opportunities when they come your way.
I would say that if you're shy or an introvert, that's not an excuse not to build community and to network. In fact, it's probably reason to put even more effort and work into it, because all of our extrovert, gregarious peers are doing this because it simply comes naturally to them.
I would say learn everything you can. I mean, there's so many great resources out there. There are blogs, there's the Ethics Verse, there is the Two Gurus Talk Compliance podcast.
Love that one.
I love it. But there also are law firm blogs, there's things that SCCE puts out, Compliance Week itself. There are so many ways to learn, and the more you learn, the more intelligently you can talk about what's going on, the more people will trust you.
Right.
I would say always assume positive intent. I think it's really important to let people do their best and to inspire and to empower them to bring their best to work.
Where do men go wrong in trying to be allies for women, or how can they be better ones?
I think listening is key. Showing up, active listening, engaging, hearing what the experiences of our female colleagues are, and hearing what it is that they need from the organization, how we can support in that, and advancing who they are, how they show up, and what's important to them.
I come from a background of very strong women, and I feel that men should be able to allow women to grow within the spaces that they need to grow within. Definitely helping out wherever they can and not putting it against where women can do less because of just their gender, but more so how can we use the talents that women bring to the industry to make the industry grow and become even more successful.
First, one, how can men be more supportive and helpful is if we're in a leadership role, obviously it's making sure that they have the training, making sure that they have opportunities to come to places like this to get the certifications and support them when they're working and talking with other departments and other leaders.
I think what we could do, Nick, is really understand what women empowerment is in general and what, these initiatives and organizations are trying to accomplish. And from there, we can provide our support, whether it's attending these events, sponsoring these events, or figuring out ways to get more involved, whether it's, doing a mentorship or just participating.
Well, let me tell you my favorite story, and you'll know it. 5 years ago, 2 women came up to me and said, you need more diversity in your podcast network. Their names were Mary Shirley and Lisa Fine. I said, that's a great idea. Why don't you start a podcast? They started Great Women in Compliance. They built a community around that brand and really literally changed the world in compliance.
They did.
Because of what they did, and now there's a whole community. There's even a conference of women supporting women in compliance, and it started because those women had the courage to step up and do that podcast. So support women. I was able to support them because I had a podcast network, and that's what they needed, but they built it all themselves.
Thank you for watching. And if you're a woman in the ethics and compliance space, thank you for all you do every day to make your world better. It's a lonely job and it's a hard job, but it matters and you matter. As always, be sure to follow Ethico for more content like this, and join us every Thursday at noon Eastern for the Ethics Verse, our weekly webinar series where we talk about ethics, compliance, and how to make our world better by fixing our workplaces.